So I mentioned we look at the Chalav Yisrael tshuva for Moshe. And the reason it's a good tshuva is because it deals with two aspects of what I find to exist in tshuvas. One is the actual mechanics of the tshuva, the halachic argument itself. The other is the extra legal aspects. I think someone said to you last week that you should follow Chalav Yisrael because it's the right thing to do. Yeah, I know Moshe's materit, but even Moshe says it's the right thing to do. Okay, so then what is the halachic statement? And a lot of people say that. Yeah, it's mutter, but this is really what's right. So how does that work? On the other hand, what is the halachic argument? So I just want to show you a little bit. Like, what happens in halacha is the idea that there is a technical argument about halacha in a vacuum, in the sense that what is the actual halachic state of an item. Okay? Then there is the application of the halacha in a broader perspective. Like, for example, you have a situation where you have a halacha that says something is kosher or not kosher, and it might be the halacha says that the halacha says this thing is not kosher, but the hefsid meruba, if it's a great loss, it becomes kosher. So what does that mean? How does the fact that it's a great loss, how does that affect the kashrus argument? So what happens is really there is a technical argument, is it kosher or not, and then there is a context argument, and then there is a further context argument. So for example, the basic approach of the Ramah, some people say, is that when the Ramah says that something is asur, but the hefsid meruba, because of a great loss, it's motor. What the Ramah is really saying is, technically, pursuant to the technical analysis of a halacha in a vacuum, it's really mutter. However, given the fact that there are opinions who say it's not mutter, given the fact of the general situation, the Ramah is saying, basically, though, in a normal situation, you should treat it as asur. However, if there's a great loss, then he's saying rely back on the original halachic conclusion.
What would the loss be?
Tremendous financial loss.
How can he say that it's asur? Why wouldn't he just say that b'diavad it's kosher and l'chachila it isn't?
As that becomes what he's saying is that how should you behave?
When he says second, he says it's asur. He's saying it's asur.
That's what people are trying to deal with. When he says it's asur, he's basically making a statement on your behavior. He's saying you should treat this piece of meat in normal circumstances as prohibited, but in certain circumstances you can treat it as permitted. You're right. And by the way, there's a question on the Ramah, on explaining the Ramah this way because of what you're saying. Because his statement should say really technically it's permitted, but I'm calling upon you to be more stringent in consideration. So really that becomes a greater example, which is what Ramosha does over here. See, Ramosha's case is over here. Is a case of Chalav Yisrael. So Ramosha's first argument is milk produced commercially in countries like Canada, the United States, is it kosher? Okay, given the parameters for being kosher pursuant to the Gemara. What?
Why specifically commercially?
It's definitely not healthy.
No, what we're saying is milk that's sold in the supermarket.
But even non-Chalav Yisrael milk has a hechsher on it.
Yeah, but he's not talking like that. So even with the hechsher, there might be a hechsher because it's Ramosha's hechsher.
The farm ones are the ones that you find natural farm ones that are healthy or natural, like you said.
Right, but that would depend upon the technical functioning of the situation. Let's look at his argument and see how it applied to other arguments. Okay? So Ramosh is saying over here, his question over here is how companies commercially produced milk. Okay? Regular milk. Okay, is it kosher pursuant to halacha? Okay, now, can you say that it's kosher? Okay, now, what would be the issue? So the point is that in ancient times the concern was if someone gave you milk, did you know that it was cow's milk or could have been pig's milk?
Yeah.
So how do you know? You may, especially if you have no idea what pig's milk and cow's milk look different. Okay? And supposedly camel's milk, which was also not kosher, is actually used by some people even today to make cheese or whatever. Like, I don't know. But the point is there was a concern. Like with anything else, a person gives you a piece of meat, how do you know it's kosher? So the fact is there has to be a certain statement of how you know something is kosher. So the point is the question emerges, how do you know that milk is kosher? It's because it's from a cow. So how do you know this milk is from a cow? How do you know someone didn't adulterate it by putting some pig's milk into it and so forth? So the Gemara talks in terms of, at the time of milking, there was Jews watching, or Jews being around as a certain type of mashgiach. Okay, and it wasn't that the Jews had to actually look at the milking. It was the fact that if a Jew was around the premises and able to show up whenever he wanted to, then there would be a question of a mashgiach, of some aspect of hashgacha that would say that the owner would be somewhat it would be enough that a person, that the farmer, the owner, would not try to mix pig's milk into the cow's milk.
So it's not under constant supervision. That's not Chal V'Yisrael.
Chal V'Yisrael is that a Jew is on the place when the milking is being done. Okay, and because a Jew is present, the Gemara's case is a farmer won't try to do a trick, and it's like a mashgiach, a non-mashgiach tamidi, but a mashgiach who's, mashgiach who is there, so the person is afraid. So here the person has to be on the premises. That's what Chal V'Yisrael is that the Jew is there, could supervising, could walk into the milking at any point in time, but the farmer, the non-Jewish farmer, is concerned, knows that the Jew is there, and therefore he won't mix in. He won't take the chance of losing the business by a Jew walking in and watching him try to sneak in some non-kosher milk. Now, the fact is so the question emerges: is what about milk today, where they buy from regular farms and stuff like that, and so Ramosha's argument is that in our world, this is okay. Okay. Now, the first thing you have to understand is Ramosha's understanding of the Drobonim. There are two ways of understanding the Drobonim. One way of understanding the Drobonim is the rabbis were setting a parameter to ensure the milk was kosher. They weren't stating that they weren't making a statement that a Jew has to be at the milking period. They were saying that that it's important to know that milk is unadulterated and from a kosher animal.
Is this his opinion?
What?
This is just a general understanding?
No, this seems to be an issue, and this seems to be one thing the way Moshe is developing it. If the rabbis made an edict that said Jews must be present at the milking of the animal, period, then that would be like other drobonins, where you don't look at the underlying reasons or something like that. It's just saying that this is what the halacha demands, right? That Jews have to be at the milking. Okay? It's not the way Ramosha understands it. The way Ramosha understands it is that when Chazal said Jews have to be in the milking, their understanding is that Chazal is saying that you have to make sure that the milk is kosher. Now, the way you make sure the milk is kosher is by having a mashgiach. Okay? So it's not the command that you have to actually have a Jew at the milking. It's a command that you have to make that you should.
That process.
Right. You have to make sure
having someone there.
You have to make sure that the milk is kosher. Okay? In other words, there's a problem. Maybe they'll try to play games with milk and stuff like that. So you have to make sure the milk is kosher. Okay. Once you open up that recognition that the issue is not whether a Jew's actually washing the milk, but that you have to take that you should be concerned that the milk is kosher, then it opens up other possibilities. Like, for example, what happens if there are no non-kosher animals in the vicinity? Okay? Like, in other words, you're concerned that the guy's going to mix pig's milk into his milk. But the fact is, there's no pig's milk around. Because there are no pigs around.
Right.
The only animals around are cows.
In that farm, you're saying that produces.
Or in that city. In that city, or in that thing. There are no horses. There's no camels.
They have to really go out of their way.
All they have is cows. So there's a pre-Chodesh that argues that if there are no non-kosher animals in the locale,
how are you going to know that? Though? No one knows.
Because there's no non-kosher animals in the locale. I saw one person say,
farms have all kinds of animals.
Do you know that people don't have pigs?
It's a dairy farm.
Or horses. Like, well, I heard one person say, like, what? You hear that there's a zoo and it has some kind of non-kosher animal in the zoo? He says, we're not concerned about that. We're talking about the fact that the guy has access to non-kosher animals. Okay? So, the issue is not that a Jew has to actually be there when they're looking at it. The issue is you have to make sure that your issue is the milk kosher?
So if there were other animals on that farm because they have other things going on, whatever, but their milk thing is separate, completely separate, but they have
the extent of how far you have to have separation actually is machlokas among various poskim. But the point is that generally, if there's other non-kosher animals on the farm, you might have an issue in terms of the pre-chodesh's explanation. But the thing is what you're getting at here is the issue is not that a Jew has to see it, or the issue is not that there has to be a Jewish a Jewish supervisor. The issue is you have to ensure that the milk is kosher. Okay? And if you have another way of ensuring that the milk is kosher, because it can't not be kosher because there's no other animals around who are not kosher, then you're ensuring the milk is kosher. Okay? So it's a different it's not saying now other people say no, that you have to actually the drabanan is you need a Jew at the milking. Okay, fine. It's not a matter. Milk could be 100% kosher, but Chalav Yisrael, it's not. The issue is not if the milk is 100% kosher. The issue is you need to have the Chazal made an edict that you have to have a person there. Okay, that's a different issue. But Ramosh is taking the position that the issue is that you have to ensure the milk is kosher, and the easiest way to ensure the milk is kosher is that there's a mashgiach there.
Right.
And what Chazal said there has to be should be a Jew at the milking, it's to ensure that
the mashgiach is kosher.
That mashgiach is kosher. Okay, mashgiach is there. Right. Okay. So that's his first step. Now his question is that what do you need in order? What are really the standards of ensuring that something is kosher? So let's just look at the beginning here, because he just develops a technical argument in terms of what's necessary to establish facts. Okay, so he says, "B'dvar chalav shel companies b'minasenu." Okay, companies. Okay, but the milk of companies in our country, regular commercial, dairies. Okay, asher yesh pekuach hamemshala okay, that there's a concern that from the government, who know that from the government that if they mix non-kosher milk in with cow's milk, they put any other type of milk in cow's milk, they will be punished. But and not only that, they'll lose their company. They'll be closed out of the business. What?
The contract, essentially?
No, it's basically saying the government has rules. And if you go into a dairy and they put and they're selling cow's milk, and you go into a dairy and find out they had pig's milk, right? What would happen to that company? Well, first of all, they get a big fine. Second of all, they'll be out of business.
That's still around?
Right? What?
They'll get a fine and they'll...
Absolutely.
Of course it is.
Yeah, and they'll lose their company, right? Okay, Mira says clearly from their own fear, they'll be afraid to make any. Imagine if a dairy company ever came out and said was found to have pig's milk mixed in. First of all, they get fined like crazy by the government. And second of all, no one ever buy from them, or they'll lose their business. There's really a very strong argument to say that this milk is kosher, right? Up below shitas of Pri Chodesh, even without the Pri Chodesh's argument that there are no non-kosher animals around. That's what he's just referring to, that other argument, even without the Pri Chodesh. Because if you have a clear knowledge of something, who Korea mamish, it's actually very similar to seeing it.
Also, the question would be like, what's the financial gain of actually swapping?
That's part of it. The fact is, there's only financial loss. There's no financial gain. There's actually someone I saw that if pig's milk was actually much more expensive,
right,
then that would be a further argument. But even though it's not like that, but the fact is what he's saying here is, he's making a very important statement that if you have a yediyah berura, a clear-cut argument that's pretty straightforward, like really a thoughtful argument, it's like seeing it. Which is applicable in Eidus Mammon. For example, in Eidus Mammon, okay, even if you didn't actually see something, but you have a clear-cut proof that this is what's happened, then that counts as status. He's going to take this even more so. Okay, now, you all know that basically when we talk about Eidus and Halacha, it usually has to be an eyewitness. Okay? The fact is that there are certain evidence within Halacha that is almost like eyewitnesses. Okay? Okay? And usually the term that's used to that is called an anan sahadi. Okay? It basically means the logical possibility is as such, that is as if it's an eyewitness. Okay? Like for example, if you're involved in the tefillah of let's say a female ger, okay? Okay. How can a bezdin watch the tefillah of a female ger, gioret, right? Okay. So what happens is that the tefillah, the woman is usually placed in the mikvah, in the corner of the mikvah, okay, in such a place that the bezdin standing at the door can just see the top of her head, okay, and then when she has to be toivel, the bezdin watches her head going underneath the water, okay. Now, how do you know that she's standing there doing tefillah, like really is naked doing tefillah? Because the mikvah lady placed her in the mikvah, okay? And when she got placed in the mikvah, it was basically for geras, and it was done properly. So even though the bezdin only sees her head going underneath the water, it's a pretty clear-cut anan sahadi. It's like it's a real tefillah. It's like we take it for granted. It's pretty obvious what's going on over here. We have various situations like that in halacha. He's going to give a few more examples of this. Okay? Okay, and he says, Zehu Geter Anan Sahadi Shematzinu B'Harbi Makomos. This is the Anan Sahadi that we find in many halachic situations. Afle Edi Kiyuma de Kedushin, and he gives an example, even in order to establish Kedushin. Sha'af Shalo Rao Elacha Yichud. So there's three ways for a person get married. There's Kedushin through Kesef, Kedushin through Shtar, right? Kedushin through money. The husband, the chassan gives the woman money. Shtar, the chassan gives a woman a shtar, not a ksuba, a shtar Kedushin. And the other one is through Bia, that they both have relations. Now, if you look in the Gemara Kedushin, all you need is Edi Yichud. You don't actually have to see the relations of the Edi Yichud. It says why? Right? Even though all they saw was the Yichud, the Edi Kedushin only saw the Yichud, Hu Kuroi Habiyah Mamish is considered to be is that they actually saw the relations. Okay, why? Because they went into this room, the shame Bias Kedushin, and that's why they were privately in this room. So the Edi Kedushin, that's the assumption. In other words, it's like an Anan Sahadi. Even though we don't actually see it, it's pretty clear what they did. He says, Benasa Esha Ish Gemura, and this makes her a full-fledged wife. Avlechiv Misa, okay, to Baaleha. Even to mean that someone else is held guilty of adultery with this woman if she then subsequently has relations with another man. The other man can't say, hey, maybe they weren't married, maybe they never had Kedushin. No, the Anan Sahadi, that they were in this room together, that the husband and wife did establish the Kedushin bond this way is enough. But Nasa Eshe Ish Gemor Aflechiv Misa Lahavi Aleh Acher Lahabal Acher Acherkach Shalol Litzfus Ba Kedushin Acher, and also not to be married by someone else. What he's saying over here is there are certain situations where you don't have absolute eyewitness thing. However, it's an Anan Sahadi. It's pretty obvious that this is what happened. That they got married for the purposes of this is the way they got married. And he goes into another example like this. Okay, he says another case. If you he says, I'm going to take it out. Chazinin, the ap anan sahadi pechuta mizu. He says, I'm going to even take a less absolute case. What is that? Kahada chazaka ein anamosa biyasu biyasnos. The chazaka that the person doesn't make his acts, his sexual acts into a promiscuous act, right? Okay. In other words, shahu kariya mamish is almost like seeing it. Now, what does he mean by this? Okay, so because
it's like a
what?
I forgot what chazaka.
Okay, but he's saying like this. Well, no, in this case he's saying something differently. Okay, there's a chazaka that says there's an established theory that people do not that people have certain intents. There's an assumption of the intent of the average person, or there's an assumption of the intent of a person. We have an assumption that there's that when people have relations, their intent is not for a promiscuous relationship. Their intent is for a proper relationship. Okay, and this basically states
before marriage or after marriage.
Well,
like I'm saying,
it is saying that before marriage. Basically, the concept is used like this: that if a man and a woman have relations before marriage, okay, then the concept is that we can assume that their intent in having relations was to form a marital bond. Okay? Now, are there arguments against that? Yes, on a case-by-case basis. But basically, there's an assumption that since people don't want their relations to be promiscuous, that if two people have relations, there is the assumption that they have in mind to make it a non-promiscuous act, which means that they have intent to be married. Now, the classic example of this in our age is in terms of two people, in terms of reform and conservative marriages. Okay, so it's okay. The fact is that if we hold that reform and conservative marriages are not halachically correct, the kedushin, the reform and conservative marriage ceremony is not halachically valid.
Even the conservative?
Pardon?
Even the conservative?
Yeah, especially if they have a double ring ceremony. And also, who says they have two kosher eidim, right? But the fact is that if you have a conservative and reform marriage ceremony, that doesn't say that necessarily that's not a halachically acceptable marriage. The issue arises, though, is that when they go home and have relations, the concept of ein adam also b'yaznus, that a person doesn't make their relations promiscuous. So basically, the assumption is not that the reform or conservative marriage creates a halakhically acceptable marriage. The assumption is that a reform and conservative marriage is that when they go home and they have relations, that relations is for the purpose of being married, and therefore they are married halakhically. That's why many people say that in reform and conservative marriage, the people need a get, because even though the ceremony wasn't accepted halakhically, their subsequent relations created the marriage because of ein b'yasa b'yasa, because people aren't having promiscuous relations. Okay, Ramosha has a remarkable heter. Okay, and this is people rely upon when you can't do it, when they seem to be possible to get a get. What Ramosha says is, since they already believed that they were married, okay, through their conservative or reform ceremony, when they have relations afterwards, they're not having relations to form the marriage. They already think they are married. Right. So the truth is, they're not having it's not biznus because they think they are married. So it's true, they don't have intent to do a promiscuous relationship, but the point is that the relations still don't create the marriage bond because they already think they're married. So therefore, according to the Ramosha, okay, they don't need a get, which is what people rely upon if it's in situations where it's difficult to get the couple who are married or a reform conservative rabbi, one of them doesn't want to give a get or something like that. A lot of people then turn to Ramosha's heter to say. But the fact is there's an assumption that people don't want their relations to be promiscuous. That's the assumption. Now, the point is that's an assumption. What Ramosha is saying is that's a non-sahadi. Okay, in other words, it's such a powerful, it's an assumption that says it creates a marriage. So, and in this situation, if it creates the marriage, then if someone then has relations with this married woman, who's only married because we apply this principle of ein b'yasa b'yaznus, that person would be guilty of adultery.
Right.
So the point is even though there is an 80 Riyah, there's no absolute eyewitnesses, we have logical assumptions which we apply. Now,
is he saying that someone who sleeps with someone is married? He's saying that's the non-sahada?
He's saying that generally we assume that a person doesn't have intent to have the promiscuous marriage. Therefore, if they get married, if they have relations, then there's a non-sahadi that they will be married. Now, that their intent was to be married. Are they really married? Well, it depends if they're a kedushin. They still, just because two people have relations doesn't mean you still need other factors in order to form a kedushin, such as witnesses. So they have intent not to have promiscuous, but the fact is...
So if you're at a house party and a couple sneaks out in front of people...
So it's okay. You're dealing with issues and so forth. The fact is that... Okay, but the point is, what Ramosha is basically pointing out is that there is a realm of circumstantial evidence within the realm of Judaism, even though in many, many cases, or basically there are a lot of cases, or basically we think in terms of eyewitnesses. He basically says, he says absolutely eyewitnesses apply in terms of murder. Okay, we don't kill someone until there's actually eyewitnesses to see that the person, actually killed them something, because that's exeris akasa from the Torah.
But nowadays, let's say you have like DNA nowadays.
That gets into other types of issues. But the fact is on actual dinim nefashos, Moshe will say that in certain aspects of dinim nefashos, when you're dealing with criminal cases, capital cases, you actually need eyewitnesses. But in many cases, you can get by with an anan sahadi, which is a logical analysis. So that, for DNA, could be circumstantial evidence that will be accepted under this anan sahadi principle. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, therefore, what he's saying is, now what's he saying over here? So he's getting to a point where he's basically saying that the Rabbanan did not say that you have to have a Jew, on site at the milking. That he's saying that what the Rabbanan were saying is you have to make sure that milk is kosher. Anan sahadi, circumstantial evidence, logical evidence that ensures that the milk is kosher is sufficient. Okay? A company who basically will be severely punished and even lose their business if they're found out to have mixed non-kosher milk into kosher milk, and therefore will not take that chance, that's a logical argument to say that the milk is kosher. And that's all you have to ensure. And that's what he's doing and that was his halachic argument. Okay?
So
now,
does he go on and say later
what?
on?
What?
So why doesn't he just end it?
He does. That's what he ends up saying. So he says, okay. So now,
but there's other.
He's going to develop this whole argument about the non sahadi and he defends his argument that a non sahadi has this power to declare things, to have this evidentiary power. That's basically what he's going to get into. That this is part of the rules of evidence. That it doesn't just mean eyewitnesses. It's if you have a knowledge equal to eyewitnesses, that stands as evidence within a Jewish court, except in circumstances which he gets in terms of capital punishment. Okay, now I'd like you to look at the last paragraph. Okay, because the last paragraph is over here. The last paragraph on this page. Okay. Okay. It's actually not the last paragraph. It's the second last paragraph. L'chein b'chalav sha'asru. Okay. Okay. L'chein b'chalav sha'asru lak b'chal ba'akum. Okay, ein yisrael ro. Therefore, milk that is usher only because it was milked by non-Jews and no Jew saw it, right? So there's no eyewitnesses. Yesh lahatir. Okay. There's an argument to say it's really mutter. Why? Gam b'Yisrael yodim yediyah barua dehabikariya. As long as the Jew knows that that it's kosher, in the same type of knowledge as if it was an eyewitness. In other words, if you know pretty positively, if you know pretty well that it's kosher, based upon the logical knowledge, okay, that stands in for eyewitness knowledge over here, and therefore that milk is kosher. Okay, v'zeh she'im yarvo yanchu, that is, if they mix in non-kosher milk, they will be punished. V'strichel diskor ha'esek sham, and they'll be obligated to close down their business. Shu harvacha shul kama alafim. This is a loss of thousands. And the government is on top of this and overlooking them. Huvade yediyah barua. This is absolute knowledge. Shehu Korea, which is like eyewitnesses. This would not be in the aspect of being aser. Okay. And he's giving this argument point to everyone. There's no reason to disagree with this. Now, I told you some reasons, which were most of them. So some people say no, the Rabbanan is actually need someone watching. According to that shita, there'll be a reason, because it's not a din in evidence, it's a din as the Rabbanan actually demanded someone seeing. But that's something different. Ramosh is saying, within his viewpoint, he's saying as an evidentiary principle, okay, this knowledge is equal to eyewitness evidence. Okay? And this is going to now watch this language here. And this is what I want to show you guys in terms of how he then looks at chumras and stuff like that. A person who wishes to rely upon this argument and to be lenient and drink any type of milk, he has a real argument to say that it's okay, and it's personally permitted. Just as most Purim Jews are making on this, and many rabbis. But chas v'shalom lomar shosim shlo kedin, and it's chas v'shalom to say these people are not acting properly. Okay, this is a solid argument and it's very good. Now, aval mikol makom, but in any event, but balei nefesh, to people who have a real, who want to be more stringent. Mina roy lahachver, okay, who generally are more stringent and sort of thing. Be'ein bezeh mishum yehura. The fact that they want to keep Chol Yisrael should not looked upon as a form of Yehura is of ego, of inappropriate ego. But I actually do only drink Chal Yisrael, as Moshe said. Anyone who's being makel is acting properly, and should not be perceived as a person who is somewhat not careful on what's prohibited and what's permitted. Now, Moshe basically, what I wanted to show you this is Moshe basically gives technical argument, which most people don't know about evidence, that it's not just eyewitnesses, but if you really have substantial evidentiary rules, solid evidentiary argument, it generally can work except in a few cases where it doesn't. And he says, for example, in capital cases dealing with murder and stuff like that, you actually need eyewitnesses. However, he also points out something in terms of mikol and being makbar. He basically says to someone, the person who's being makel on this isn't wrong, and no one should attack them as if you're not doing something that's wrong. On the other hand, he's saying something interesting. But the person who being machmer, there's a concern for people being machmer that they may be overstating their ego. The concept of Yehura that says they're trying to get some kind of ego gratification from being machmer. He says, which is wrong. Yehura is wrong. So he says they shouldn't be attacked for Yehura if they're keeping this up, because there's also a reason to be machmer because of balei nefesh. Most likely, when Moshe is thinking in terms of those reasons, is most likely more of the mystical reasons. There are mystical reasons for liking Chal Yisrael, for wanting Chal Yisrael. But the point is he basically is throwing out an interesting idea. Person should do what they're doing, but the truth is people don't recognize that there's a concern for kul and there's a concern for chumrah. If you're being machmer and you're getting ego gratification from that machmer, that's not such a good thing. That's called Yehura.
Right.
Okay? And the fact is you should be very careful not to act beyond your place in Judaism, so that you don't get some kind of ego gratification, pat on your back from, oh well, I'm machmer, right? Oh, look how firm I am, so forth and so forth. That's not a good thing. So the truth is, though, Moshe in this case is saying, don't attack that person who's being machmer, don't attack the person who's being makel. He's basically saying, trying to see the benefit of the doubt. The person who's being makel, he's doing what halakha is okay. The person who's being machmer, he wants to be a little frommer. So the point is, though, is that on the other hand, though, you should be concerned about. Any person should be concerned about their motivations in whether they're being machmer or makel. Makel should not take you to go do something. What's wrong? Against the halacha, being mezalzel in the halacha, sort of treating it slovenly. On the other hand, you should also be careful about being machmer in the sense that you're not getting inappropriate ego gratification from being machmer. Anyways, I think it's an interesting perspective of Ramosha.
So,
Okay.
so when you have like a brewery that has fruit flavoring, but they claim they actually use real fruit. They don't use.
You have to check. The fact is on these issues, you have to check what the says. In this case, Ramosha's case is saying the reason you can rely upon it is because the government will come down hard.
Right,
Okay.
but on something like because you can take milk and you can exchange it for pig's milk, but when it comes to like
No, wait a sec. Ramosha's saying that if the brewery, in the case of Chalav Yisrael, in this case over here, if this dairy does anything outside of supplying cow's milk, there'll be a tremendous punishment against that dairy.
Right.
That's why he's saying you can believe it.
Right.
Okay? What you're bringing up is another case. What are the consequences if they're found to be not telling the truth? What kind of fine did they get?
The question is like, why would they?
The point is that you don't know. Those are for the. But the fact is,
why do we say that most coffees are fine? Why do we say that most beers are that without any?
Because generally there's no reason to do anything to it.
So why isn't like orange juice, like a regular orange juice of any sort?
Why isn't regular orange juice of any sort okay?
Why isn't it?
It is.
Why isn't it?
It is. Wait, what?
Regular orange juice is okay.
You don't need to have strong orange juice?
No.
What?
No.
Even Minute Maid, cause I drink it says it has strong okay, I still drink it.
Yeah, and the fact of the matter is that why certain things have hashgacha, okay? Like there's water that has hashgacha.
Right.
Why? So the fact is that's part. It's part of, I'm not getting into the hashgacha business. And the fact of the matter is, I think it's a good thing for Jews to buy things with hashgacha because it strengthens the hashgacha business, which helps. Oh, but the fact of the matter is just because something doesn't have a hashgacha doesn't mean it's osir, and just because something has a hashgacha doesn't mean it needs a hashgacha.
You're asking that orange juice without a hashgacha?
The fact of the matter is, check it out. Go look it up on COR. It'll tell you that.
No, it'll tell me what?
Go look in the book.
So maybe orange juice and trying to it's still fine.
Yeah. Yeah, especially trying to okay.
When I was in Sweden, in Finland,
that may be a different company. I don't know. I'm talking here in Canada.
They didn't hold back on me. They said that's orange juice. It's orange juice.
Yeah, fine. So that's it. No, it's.
I think they even said gray.
That's something different.
Why?
In
Europe, it works different.
The truth is.
Like a different way.
You see, what's lost in our world today is understanding the principles involved in making a decision. Okay? Hashgacha is not, if it has hashgacha it's kosher, it doesn't have hashgacha it's not kosher. Hashgacha is that there is an organization out there or a Rav or something like that who is informing you based upon knowledge that this thing meets certain standards of kashrus. Okay. The truth of the matter is before that, what did people do? They had to make decisions based upon information. Now, usually they didn't have all the information, but they got as much information they could, and they made decisions.
Right.
And it was a decision on how they made a decision, like Ramosha is doing here. What's Ramosha really doing? He's saying, listen, if the government is going to say, if you mess up in this, right, you're going to be out of business,
right.
Okay? And messing up means that it's not going to be kosher,
right.
Then I can rely upon it, it's going to be kosher.
Right.
That's what he's basically saying. Right? It's basically how you have knowledge of something being kosher or not kosher. It's a matter of making that decision. Mm-hmm. Okay? Now the truth is that certain things are easy to make that decision, certain things are not easy to make that decision.
Nowadays you can find out, you can look up that company of milk and then see what their dairies only give cow's milk.
But then they'll say, a Mashiach will say, well, I was at a factory and they use lard to clean to oil their cogs.
So therefore the question that emerges like this, is that if you don't have information, A lot of halacha is making decisions with a lack of information.
Right.
Making decisions under uncertainty. That's where you get into the issues of suffix and all that. So the truth is, when they made decisions, a lot of halachic decisions were based upon the information at hand, which meant that the information wasn't totally 100% known. And halacha makes decisions in uncertainty. Okay, and that's just as acceptable halacha. The fact of the matter is, there are assumptions in halacha that says, halacha does not say, this is absolutely this. Halacha is saying, according to halacha, what's the decision you have to make? And a lot of times that decision is based upon information under uncertainty. Okay, now, as hashgacha grew, we found out more certainty. So if a mashgiach walked into a plant and said, listen, we never thought that they use lard to grease their things, so up until this point in time, everyone had the assumption this was kosher, which is fine, that's the halacha. Now that we know that lard is used to grease this machinery, therefore we have more information, therefore we have to be more careful, and therefore we need a hashgacha. We have to make sure that lard's not used in those situations.
There's a
ice
distrust
cream,
between...
like ice cream, like it has milk inside it.
Yeah.
So what makes you think the milk or ice cream not kosher?
I don't know, because I don't know what the ice cream is made with. There's other ingredients in ice cream.
Grape is usually a problem.
Well, whatever.
I know with cheese, with cheese recently it's called Rennet. Yeah.
I mean, the fact is, you have to know all the ingredients.
Well, like, the question is, there's a big distrust, and we shouldn't be filming this, but there's a big distrust between people and chocolate companies because they feel like there's some form of fear-mongering.
Okay. What occurs is that halacha is a decision-making process. Okay? Declaring something kosher is a judgment call. Okay? Let's say you have a case of rove. Okay? Deraisa, or like batel b'rov or something like that. 3 pieces of meat. We're talking to deraisa. 3 pieces of meat. 2 are kosher. One's not kosher. Because of batel b'rov, 1 piece is all 3 can be considered kosher. Deraisa. Halacha is making judgment. It's using the legal system to make judgment decisions under uncertainty. Okay, what assumptions do we have? Do we not have? What do we need to know? What do we not need to know? Halacha is making decisions under uncertainty. What happens with the world of hashgacha is hashgacha increased our certainty. And therefore decisions began to be made with greater certainty of the actual facts. Before there was hashgacha, then you made decisions under uncertainty. Now that you have the information from the hashgacha, you're making decisions with certainty. Okay. The point is that the thing that people don't recognize is it's still all a matter of decision making. There's better decisions that are made with the more certainty you have, the better the decision can be made. But you can also make decisions that are under certainty. Something in halacha, just because it doesn't have hashgacha, doesn't necessarily mean it's not kosher.
But how do you find out about that?
Well, that's a matter of having knowledge of halacha and knowing how to make decisions under uncertainty. Okay, and knowing the issues involved. There's a lot of what a lot of people don't recognize is that halacha is a judgment call. It's a system to make decisions. It's a decision that involves legal analysis based upon the information that you have that yields a conclusion. It's a judgment call. This makes a decision. Okay? Even when you have hashgacha, you have situations where Rabbanim are making decisions. Okay? The fact is that most people don't understand that halacha is a decision-making process. Okay? What Ramosh is saying over here is, given the fact that these companies, you can assume that they're not going to mess up their business. Okay, but what happens if there's some rabid anti-Semite who will get tremendous pleasure, even at the expense of losing all his money, by trying to put some pig's milk into a cow's milk, and he has all this money and buys a dairy and says, I'm going to put pig's milk into this cow's milk, because and I don't care if the government closes me down. I don't care if I become totally bankrupt. I don't care if what happens. I just want to get Jews drinking some pig's milk. So the truth of the matter is there possibly some violent anti-Semite who would do this? Yeah. But Ramosh is basically saying you don't have to be concerned about that. Okay? Halacha works with normal situations. Companies generally don't want to go bankrupt.
Right. So the question is, a vegan place, why would a vegan hashgacha...
What is vegan hashgacha?
Okay, I want to call hashgacha a vegan certification. The question is, what is it?
The question is, and even so, there's a lot. You can hold on to these. Okay. You want to hold on to one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here. The fact of the matter is,
Chuvas in English. Igros Moshe in English.
It's an Igros Moshe Yoredei Chilek Aleph Siman.
But can you get these in English?
Some of Ramos's Tshuva have been translated, but most haven't. So the fact is that the point is that what you're talking about is a situation where you're going to get into details of who says vegan meets the standards of halacha, and not only that, what about bishul akum? What about the fact that non-Jews cooking it? I mean, the truth of that is there's a whole variety of issues. The vegan is not making a statement about kosher. The vegan is making a statement. Now, if you want to investigate what that statement is, find out what the statement is, find out whether you can, then you can ask halachic questions. What's the statement? That would be a fact statement. What standing would that fact statement have as evidentiary rule in halacha? Ramosh is saying this has fact, because the penalty, is so harsh that no one's going to do it. Okay? So then you can work from there. Okay? The point is that you're not recognizing the full issue from a halachic perspective. Okay? What is the evidentiary issue? What then is the legal? What is its standing of that evidentiary issue in the theory? Okay?